What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're looking at transfer tips for Game Week 9. So going through some of the popular transfers in and out and discussing whether they are good moves or not. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here as well. And we're going to start off with Kevin De Bruyne. So he's already had over 149,000 transfers in. That price is creeping up. He's now 12.3 million, but he's had a fantastic season so far. He's averaging 6.4 points per match, 1 assist per 90 minutes. And he's also got a goal already. So 7 returns in his first 7 games. So this is where it gets difficult to kind of analyse him about whether or not you should be bringing him in, like 149,000 people have. He is, in his own right, a really good option. There is every chance for Man United at home, Southampton at home, that he does get kind of 1 or 2, possibly more attacking returns. So for those 2 game weeks, is a good option. But Liverpool away is going to be difficult in game week 11, and then he blanks in game week 12. So things get very team dependent. So I can sit here and say he's a good transfer in for this week and game week 10, but after that, is he such a good transfer in, and is there other kind of moves you can make instead? Some people have already used their wild card, some people are using it this week, some people are going to be using it in game weeks 12 or 13, and I would question whether it's worth a transfer in or to have him on your wild card. Most people are going to have Haaland, a lot of people want Cancelo, some people are looking to hold on to Martinelli. So if you're one of those people doing those 3 things and then you add Kevin De Bruyne, that is another player you have to deal with in game week 12. So if you're bringing him in this week, you're going to have to take out one of those 4 in game week 12 to make sure you have 11 players. Now you could go into that blank game week with only kind of 9 or 10, but most people are going to have 11, and there's no real reason why you can't do that because we have the time to plan. We know this blank is coming. It's not like it's suddenly going to be thrown at us, when we get to game week 12. So that's all I can really say on it. He's great in his own right. I still think Haaland's the best premium. I still think there's some debate about whether De Bruyne is the second best premium. I think if I was wildcarding, I'd rather have Salah or Son. And so if you're in that position, that's probably where I would go instead. And if you're using a transfer, it feels a little bit short term. So I think he's a great option. I'm just not convinced it's a great use of a transfer this week. So if you're bringing in De Bruyne, let me know down below what is the plan with him for kind of game weeks 11 and 12 and even onwards. So Salah continues to be sold by FPL managers. Over 183,000 people have removed him so far this week. And I wouldn't be surprised if some people are doing the Salah to De Bruyne move, either with free transfers or using their wildcard. If you're doing that, let me know down in the comments below why that is. I'd be interested to hear some different thoughts. I'd find it difficult to make that move, especially when Salah doesn't blank in game week 12. And I think at this point, the price difference is not that huge between the two. For Salah, he's 12.9, De Bruyne is 12.3. So there's a 0.6 million difference. I'm really hoping that Salah drops in price before the deadline, so it could even be a 0.5 million difference. And when you start comparing them like that, I find it very difficult to be super negative about Salah, and for that reason I just still want him in my team because I'm quite positive about him. And if you think about the way these 2 players are talked about, De Bruyne having this really great season, he's on 7 returns in 7 games, good value for money. We should be looking at getting him in. He's on 6.4 points per match. Salah, on the other hand, some people are saying he's finished. I don't really listen to people that make comments like that. But, stuff like, he's not been playing that well. Liverpool just haven't looked great. You can see on the eye test he's just not getting involved. He's not in the box and stuff like that. And yet he's on 6.3 points per match. So he's only 0.1 behind De Bruyne. One having this really awful season, the other one having a really great season. And I just keep thinking, what happens when Salah turns that around? How good is he going to be then? He'll probably get ahead of De Bruyne. So that's one thing that's on my mind. It is worth pointing out that points per match are not necessarily always a fair comparison because De Bruyne did only play 21 minutes against Forest, but you also can't hold that against Salah, the fact that he's always on the pitch, that he is one of those players that does get good minutes. That's one of the positives we like about him as an FPL option. But then you can move on to things like expected data, so expected goal involvement. De Bruyne is slightly ahead, 0.76 per 90 minutes. Salah is at 0.72. But again, Salah is more likely to be on the pitch for 90 minutes in more games, I would say. So that's one plus. And also his expected goal involvement numbers are weighted more towards goals. So his goal threat is higher than De Bruyne, and you get more points for that rather than the assist. So these are all things that, for me, just make Salah Salah the slightly better option. Like if I'm wildcarding this week and there's only a 0.6 million difference between the two, one doesn't blank and then has West Ham at home, who could even be a fixture that you captain him for, and then Forest away and then Leeds at home. Salah is the one that I want, I think. So De Bruyne is good, right? I'm not taking that away from him. And with Man United at home and Southampton at home, he could be the better option over the next 2 weeks. But for the next 6 weeks, I definitely think that Salah is the one to have. And look, you could argue that for 13 million, although he's dropped to 12.9 now, he's not worth it if you're not going to captain him. And that is fair enough. But I think when you start making the argument that De Bruyne should be in your team, who surely you're not going to captain, right? You're going to go for Haaland in those games that Man City have really good fixtures for. How can he be worth it and Salah not, when there's not that much of a difference in price? So that's where I struggle with it. If you want to go for Haaland captain permanently, if you want to put Kane or Son in as your second premium, that's fine. But if we're looking at Salah versus De Bruyne, I think the Liverpool man wins it for me. I think the fixtures over the next 6 are better. I think in game week 12 when Man City blank, he'll probably be the best captain. You could even argue that he's an okay captain option this week, and Forest and Leeds are decent fixtures in 13 and 14. So I still think he's a good option. I think with all the stuff going on with the blank and having to deal with that, Salah out is a very luxury transfer this week. And if you're doing it on wildcard, fair enough. If that's the route you want to take and you've got a plan to get him back in later, or you're just going to ignore him, that's obviously up to you. But I just don't think he's worth using a transfer out this week. I'll be looking to keep him for the next kind of 4 to 6 weeks, I think. So anyone that went with Isak last week, probably quite happy with his 9-pointer, but unfortunately he has gone and got injured on international duty. Reports are saying that he could be out for a few weeks. You obviously don't need to rush and make the transfer. You can wait and see what Eddie Howe says, but it does look likely that he's going to miss Fulham away, possibly Brentford at home as well. And the fixtures after that are not so good that you probably need to look at keeping him in your side. Obviously, with any injured player, you can always use your bench for a week or two if you want to, but most people are going to be looking to move him on. Now, if you've got a bit of money in the bank, Ivan Toney is probably the best option. But when you make this move, and I've talked about this a lot with wildcard videos, I'd really consider the type of moves you want to make in a few weeks. So just to give you an example, we'll run through some of the forward options as well that you could go for outside of Toney. This is similar to a wildcard team that I will probably look at, right? So I will have Salah. We're not going to get into that debate again. Maddison, Zaha, Martinelli. Then I've got Cancelo, Trent and James. And I've got Gay, Williams on the bench, etc. Haaland, Mitrovic and Toney. But I need to save $1 million, right? I'm not prepared to drop Trent or Salah or anything like that. It's just not even a question. So I will probably drop Toney, for a 6.2 million player. And I will probably just go to someone like Solanke at 5.7. Now, he's not that exciting of an option. I'm not putting him in my team because I think he's going to go and get me 8-9 goals before game week 16. It's just that for 5.7 million, he should be nailed on even when a new manager comes in. He's going to play 90 minutes and he's on penalties as well. So if he got 2 to 4 goals from game week 9 to 16, I'd be pretty happy with that. I'm not really expecting miracles from that position, but by putting him in, it lets me spend money elsewhere. So he's definitely an option. For those people that do want to go down that low, there are other players you could go for in like the 6 million range. Like Mbommo, for example, instead of Toney if you wanted to. I think he's played every single game so far. Their fixtures are pretty good. He's definitely an option too, but he's not. His minutes probably aren't going to be as good as Solanke, and he's not on penalties either. Brennan Johnson, I just think that the fixtures are not quite as good. The next 3 are all right, but then it's Brighton, then it's Liverpool, then it's Arsenal. I just don't think I would want to trust him. And the other one that people are looking at is Daka. So let's say that he's not flagged anymore. He could be, for the same price, a genuinely great option over the next 4 game weeks if you're really willing to take that risk over minutes. But I'm just not sure I am. I don't think that playing the last 2 games for 1973 minutes is enough for me to now say that he's nailed on to start every single game. And with the fixtures they've got, maybe he doesn't need to start every game. But when I can get someone else that will for the same price, I'm just not sure why I would go for Daka instead. I think, look, over this season, maybe next season, Vardy is going to start to get phased out. Maybe that's already happening. But if Iheanacho and or Vardy started the next game and Daka was on the bench, would anyone be surprised? And that is my worry about bringing him in. So I think if I was going to go the cheap route, because in the future I want to fund a move for Salah or Trent to also have Cancelo and James and these players, I would look at Solanke. For what it's worth, if you're not bothered about having all those players in your side, then yeah, definitely don't get Solanke. Probably go and get Ivan Toney instead. I think he probably is the best option for that price. If you've not got Mitrovic, you could definitely consider him as well. But players like Watkins just don't excite me that much. Bamford could be an option if he can stay fit. But again, I just keep, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, is it now the time to risk someone like Bamford when suddenly we're scrambling to make a transfer because one of our players got injured? There's a blank game week to contend with as well. Can we take the risk on Bamford's minutes? If you're prepared to do that, I do like him as an alternative for to Tony, but Tony I think is the obvious option. So Isak probably has to go. I do like Tony. I like Solanke if you need a bit more money. Not a huge amount of other options for those prices for me, but if you've got someone else in mind, let me know in the comments below. So Saliba continues to be transferred in. Over 200,000 FPL managers have brought him in for Game Week 9 so far. I got to be honest, I do not get it, right? He's had a brilliant season so far. I think it's 2 goals, 1 assist. He's only 4.9 million. The Arsenal defence looks really good, but they're about to run into 2 fixtures where you could see them conceding, right? They may go and win games against Spurs and Liverpool. Who knows? But I would expect both of those teams to score against Arsenal. So then you really are relying on those attacking returns, and I'm not sure he's going to keep them up to this extent. Leeds away is not a bad fixture, but from an attacking point of view, Leeds are pretty good. So there's nothing to say that Arsenal will definitely go there and get a clean sheet either, and then it's a blank. So Saliba is definitely one for the future. I think anyone that's wildcarding in Game Week 13 might look at an Arsenal defender. We may well look at them after the World Cup as well, but I just keep this one short and sweet. Like, he's done great, and he probably will continue to do really well with good fixtures, but that is not what Arsenal have coming up. He is not a good option to bring in this week. So we've been talking about this fixture run for Leicester for a little while now. From Game Week 9 to Game Week 12, they've got really excellent fixtures. So it's not surprising to see that Maddison is a popular transfer in so far this week. Only 7.9 million. And to be fair, Leicester have not had a great start to the season whatsoever, but they have continued to find a way to score goals. From an attacking point of view, they're pretty decent. And Maddison has already got 3 goals, 1 assist himself. And they've had pretty poor fixtures. So that's very encouraging. And I see why people are going for him. And ultimately, I think the £8 million midfielders have done okay, but I think the expectations people had were so high, they're happy to move them on to someone like Maddison. I'm definitely having him on my wildcard. I don't think there's any question about that. I really just want to back those fixtures. If you look at someone like Saka, who's been brilliant as well so far this season for Arsenal, you know, you've got that Liverpool game, you've got the Spurs game, you've got the blank. I just don't see how you can justify going for him over Maddison. If you've got Saka in your team, you might want to delay that move for a couple of weeks, but I would still just want to back Leicester for Forest, Bournemouth away and Leeds home. They're just really good fixtures. And even Crystal Palace have not been great defensively so far this season. They may well improve those numbers when they play easier teams. But again, Leicester are always that team that find a way to score. So I really like Maddison for the next 4. And then he's a bit of a placeholder as well. Because the fixtures afterwards, like if you're going for a Leicester player, you could keep them all the way from 9 to 16. But from Game Week 13, they do get a bit more difficult. So you've got Wolves away and then Man City at home in Game Week 14. And if we bring up the rest of the fixtures, it's then it's in 2 away games, right? Everton away and West Ham away. So Maddison could be okay to keep here, but I'm already thinking on wildcard that I have him for these 4 weeks, and I look to possibly remove him. And from Game Week 13 onwards, Liverpool got some good fixtures, so you could look at Diaz. Man City got some good fixtures, so Foden's there. And obviously Arsenal's fixtures turn as well. So for those of us keeping Martinelli, for example, they've then got Southampton away, Forest at home. Chelsea away is difficult, of course, and then it's Wolves to finish off in Game Week 16 before we get to unlimited transfers. So I think Maddison is a pretty nice placeholder for 4 weeks, and then you can possibly look to move him to Saka, Foden or Luis Diaz, but the fixtures aren't so bad for Leicester that you're forced into that move. So I like him because it kind of leaves your options open. So yeah, really good transfer, and I think that will continue to grow as we get towards the deadline. Let me know if you're not bringing Maddison in this week, especially if you're on wildcard. Any reason for that? Do you think Leicester will just not continue to score goals, right? Because obviously it could get worse for them given how the season's gone so far. But it's going to be hard not to score goals in those fixtures. And Maddison surely involved. He's a bit of a talisman for them these days. So let me know down in the comments below any thoughts on the players we talked about. If you've enjoyed that video, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and I'll catch you again tomorrow for another video.